Take it easy and solve the school lunch problem with SPAM. S-P-A-M.
こんにちは、タイガークローラジオ。You are listening now. Back J.
You are listening to Tiger Claw Radio. Number one in vintage computer and video game entertainment. And now your host, Critical Failure.
What's going on, everybody? You're listening to Tiger Claw Radio. This is the Christmas episode. Oh, yeah. Hope you guys are having a Merry Christmas season. This week, we've got the Steam Winter Sales, and man, they cut it close to Christmas this year. They just rolled out today, so we're going to talk about that a little bit, along with some new and exciting things. Stick with us. You're listening to Tiger Claw Radio. Oh yeah, that's Chrono Wolf. That is the 20th track on the Chip Winter Wilderness album. What an album it's been. It was so good. That album made it to the it was the number one cassette tape release under Chiptunes on Bandcamp. And of all Chiptune albums, it was in the top 8. So this is a pretty widely acquired album. And unfortunately, the cassette ships in January. So I'm going to be getting the Chip Wilderness physical release when when the Christmas season's already over. So that's a thing. But that aside, still an awesome release. And let's do this, boys and girls. Last week I didn't do a lot of van casting. I had just a little bit that I recorded like from the garage. It's like, oh, I'm barely hanging on, guys. This week I was back to my normal routine. So we're gonna go back in time, boys and girls, to a much brighter day. Let's go to the van. It is Monday. It's the Vancast. What's going on, everybody? It feels good to be on my way back to the regular office. Let's see. So Christmas is coming up. It's coming fast, man. Faster than at this point I wish I had another week or two to prepare. Would be nice, but it's a good time hanging out with the kids and playing the old Christmas records and stuff like that. It's been fun. I got up early this morning, made some tea, sat down in my office at home, and I had recently spent time cleaning it up, so the place is in good shape. I got a hold of some stereo equipment just yesterday from my father-in-law that I have not yet hooked up. It's an exciting time. Sat down and had my tea, and just enjoyed the quiet a little bit, enjoyed being in my office around my games. It was a little bit too early for me to fire up something that would take a lot of brain power. I really just wanted to sit, but it felt good, man. And now I'm off to work. So here's hoping once I round off my work day and I get back home, I'll be able to... Oh man, you know what just occurs to me? I forgot my gym bag. I needed to go to the gym after work today, and now it sounds like that's not going to happen. That's a bummer. Oh well. So the Steam sales are coming up. And then we have MagFest showing up like a week after that. It sounds like the last date that I heard for the Steam Winter Sale starting was like the 24th or something like that, like right around Christmas. And then a week after Christmas you have New Year's, and then on the 3rd that's MagFest. So this year I got my eyes peeled for good local multiplayer games. Anything that's local multi that supports more than 2 players, I think would be good. I really want to get the Capcom Beat 'em Up bundle, but I know that's not going to go on sale. I think there would be nothing more awesome than crowding around the TV with my desktop hooked up to it, playing playing some of those old games. To be honest, I'm thinking about it now. I can't remember what will be on that collection. I know those Streets of Rage, right? Something like that. Have to take a look. Do you guys know if Dungeons and Dragons, the beat 'em up arcade game, if that supports more than 2 players? I can't remember if that was a 4-player arcade cab or not. But that would be a fun game to play. I know over on the retro gaming subreddit, Dungeons and Dragons is the game of the month that they do over there. I just recently got my ban lifted as well. I wrote out to the mods and I was like, hey, I made a bunch of stupid mistakes when I was still figuring out how Reddit worked, and I ended up getting banned. Can you please unban me? And they're like, okay. So old CF gets another chance. Man, it's really disappointing. Last week I talked a little bit about the game Artifact and how the player base was in trouble. Hang on a second. There we go. One more. There we go. Yeah, so Artifact. Artifact was a game I was thinking about getting into. Collectible card game, $20, and it's a Valve game, right? I never cared much for Dota 2, but I like collectible card games. Problem is, I only know one other person well, that's not fair. 2 other people. I know a couple people who share the interest in collectible card games. And from what I understand, both of them kind of took the same attitude. It's like, this isn't going to be great. But I would have bought it anyway at some point. And it launched at $20. It went from 60,000 players down to less than 10,000 in what was it, 24, 48 hours, something like that. It's really sad. Those numbers sound an awful lot like when I bought H1Z1. And a lot of people were playing that like the week I got it, and then the following week it just took a nosedive as the player base left for PUBG. Pretty crazy. Oh boy. Well, I guess it's time to move on to what I would do if I were able to just throw my hands up and head home for the day. If I were back in my office with my games around me, I can think of 2 things. I would play either Dead by Daylight, because that's, at this point, is my go-to game right now. I got to play it last night, and I had a couple of really good rounds after like a long string of failures. That's one thing. Another, hang on a second. Give me a second here. I'm shuffling at an intersection. Make sure it's drive time. Okay, now we're good. So Dead by Daylight, and what was the other one? There was another one I was considering as well. Dead by Daylight, or you know what else? This wasn't what I was thinking of, but I've kind of a hankering to play Dig Dug. Good old-fashioned Dig Dug. Alright, I've got it on Steam from the arcade series. I've got it on multiple copies of the Namco Arcade Museum for several different platforms. There was a news story in the last couple weeks about a song that Chubby Checker composed for like a commercial or something. It's unclear if it was for a commercial or what, but Chubby Checker, who, if you don't know who Chubby Checker is, that's the guy he was a one-hit wonder who made the song Do the Twist. That's Chubby Checker. And he cut a song about Dig Dug in like 1981 that just got buried and was recently uncovered on cassette. So there is a Chubby Checker Dig Dug song, which has been making the rounds on the internet recently, which is kind of neat. I don't know when Do the Twist came out, but it must have been long before the 80s. I'd have to open up Wikipedia and figure it out, but I'm thinking about this, the timeline that would lead up to a Chubby Checker Dig Dug song, and it sounds like an old one-hit wonder recorded a video game song at the height of Pac-Man Mania, or Pac-Mania. Probably was held on to see if Pac-Man would give way to the next big thing, and then video games crashed and it just got buried or unused. You know, these things happen. Interesting little relic in history. I find it interesting that things like this continue to be uncovered in terms of video games. It seems like there's always something like this going on. That was a fun little discovery, especially since I've been more into music and cassette tape collecting lately. So that's something that's like right up my alley. And with that, I'm going to throw you guys back to the studio. To be perfectly honest, I'm feeling a little burnt this morning. I'm like, I haven't even got to the office on Monday. I got to get it together. I got to summon the strength. You know how that goes. I can't allow any of this moping, nonsense. Time to find some grit. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to jump off of here and I'm going to fire up my Chiptunes Equals Win Christmas album. which I have in my car, and I'm going to crank that thing way up. And hopefully I can stay awake long enough to get to the office and get some tea going. I'll see you guys back in the studio. We are back safe and sound. Oh yeah. In Panzer Studios. Feeling good tonight. Let's see. I want to play another chip tune. I want to see if I can get... Alright, let's do this. I'm going to plug in my external hard drive. I'm flying by the seat of my pants, boys and girls. It's the kind of thing I normally do off air if I can. But here's the deal. You remember like a month or so ago, I was playing tracks that were from the 8-Bit Collective. Do you remember that? Now, the 8-Bit Collective, around Christmas time in 2010, there was a particular song about Christmas. It was a collaboration between Darius Carlin and I think Raptor or something like that. And it was the #1 track for many weeks. So what I want to do, let's see, old external hard drive. I'm looking that up because I don't think you can get that track anywhere, and that was a fun song. 8-Bit Collective downloads. Let's see here. There it is, Raptor Carlin, and it was called F Christmas. It had all of the in-jokes from the 8-Bit Collective in it. If you're not familiar with LSDJ, that's the program used commonly for making chiptunes on the Game Boy. And in the drum kit, there's a lot of different sounds you can use, like a snare or like a bass drum. But there's also something called the break, which is spelled BRK, and it's just a guy going break, and that became an in-joke amongst the chiptune people in those days. I don't hear people say it anymore, but that's thrown in to the F Christmas song. Always been a favorite of mine. So we're turning back the clock here on TCR. Stick with us. What a weird ride that song is. What a very strange thing. When that song came out, people loved it. They loved that song. Oh my gosh. I remember that year playing that quite a bit. That was when I was using a generic MP3 player, and I had a big folder that was 8-bit collective downloads, and that folder was just dropped on the MP3 player, and I would play it one at a time. So it came up quite a bit, but it was amongst many songs from the 8BC. Oh, good days. Good days they were indeed. Well, all right, boys and girls, this is the part I like to set aside a couple minutes just to thank the patrons over at Patreon. This is a Patreon-sponsored program. Patreon coming under fire lately from some deplatforming. There seems to be a lot of people leaving, but I haven't really felt the effects of it here on TCR. The reason I'm bringing it up is because if any of you out there have thoughts on it, I'd be really interested to hear. But this is I usually set politics aside because I kind of think the state of the nation right now, anytime you start talking about politics, everybody just gets really upset, and zero progress gets made on anything. So let's just take a moment and appreciate the people who are giving their resources and making sure that this comes back every week, because I certainly do appreciate it. You guys, even though it may seem like a pittance, or it's making a huge difference for me. Just to be able to say, hey, look, another month has gone by. Now I can do something nice for my wife or something like that. So to these guys, I offer early access to the show. As soon as it gets done, which is usually Friday or Saturday, I put it up for them. They get some small supporter-only content. It's like every month or so I try and get something out. And I read their names off in a Hall of Distinguished Gentlemen. They are Hemrock, James, Sendu, Tecmo Balls, Darabka, and the Cartridge Brothers. Thank you guys very much for supporting the show. All right, so I do have another Vancast. This one was recorded in the afternoon, which is very different from the morning. So I think you'll find me quite a different character. Stay tuned. It's the Vancast. It's Thursday night, everybody. Thursday night. I am on my way home from the gym, and I'm just realizing, oh, my light's on. Ha! How about that? Oh my gosh. I just got off of work, went down to the gym, getting in shape for MagFest, boys and girls. MagFest is in 2 weeks now. Yeah, exactly 2 weeks, and I'm psyched. But there was one year, here's the thing about MagFest, there's a lot of walking involved, and one year I went, this was when around the time I first got a smartphone. This is the first time I went with a smartphone. And my phone was counting the steps. You know how that's a thing now? Hey, how many steps did I get today? Well, I got 28,000 steps at a time in which when I was used to getting about 5,000 to 6,000 a day. That was the first day. So my legs were sore for the rest of the con. Yeah, so I'm in much better shape these days, but nonetheless, I know there's going to be a lot of walking. I want to be in good shape, so I'm working it out a little bit, getting my run on, lifting a little weights, nothing too crazy, I'm not getting jacked, but taking care of myself. I think it was that same year where I wandered into the concert hall. I don't do many concerts at MagFest. Last couple years, I've wandered into the concert hall just for a few minutes, just to see what happened to be going on whatever given particular moment. Well, a couple years ago, I wandered into the pit. The Megas were playing, and a mosh pit started, and I was like, oh yeah, this is my thing. And I lasted about 60 seconds. I know I've told this story on the air. And it was great for 60 seconds because all the frustration, of parenthood and working in an office and all that stuff, it all came out. But after 60 seconds, it was like, nope, you're in your 30s now. And I keeled over, and that was it for me. But I was in very poor shape then. Now I'm in much better shape. So my goal is, if a mosh pit starts, I want to be able to survive an entire song. I know I can't smash into people all night like when I was in my 20s, but I want to be able to crank it up just a little bit and live. But that's MagFest. I have a feeling I'll be talking about MagFest a lot when it's all over. So, other things to discuss. Today was the first day of the Steam Winter Sales. And, oh boy, the last of the big three at the end of the year. We get the Halloween sale, we get the Thanksgiving sale, and then we get a big sale for Christmas. And, come on, buddy. There you go. That's you, man. All right. And it's different now. See, when I started doing Steam, when the big sales would start, the moment they'd roll out, on the East Coast they roll out at 1 p.m. The idea is it's 10 in the morning, but they're a California-based company. So 10 in the morning for California, 1 p.m. for the East Coast. 1 p.m. would come, and right after that, Steam would go down. You couldn't connect because of the traffic. So now the traffic, it's much better in terms of being able to connect as soon as they roll out, because there's no flash sales anymore. And I loved the flash sales, but the fact that they're gone, I guess, makes connecting as soon as it rolls out a little easier. The problem is they don't have all of the discounts like all set. Like in my head, I always figured that they had a page built, or they had a version built that had, everything, all the sales involved. And then once 1 o'clock came, they just threw the switch, and then there you go. And then the page went live that they'd spent, weeks and weeks working on. Oh no, because when the clock struck 1 o'clock, the main page rolled out that said Steam Winter Sale, and I was like, oh yay, the Steam sales are active now. But strangely enough, there were no actual discounts. Not because things weren't on sale, but just because they had to roll those out one by one by one. So it took about an hour and 40 minutes before I could see that everything was on sale. Yeah, so that's cool. I'm looking at stuff. I haven't really dead set my heart on anything yet, but I know I want to get Cuphead. That came out a couple of years ago and people were going bananas over it. I still have never played it yet. I want to get... My golden goose, I think, is Resident Evil 0 and the Resident Evil remake. The two GameCube games. They run about $7 a piece. So I have my eyes set on those. I also kind of want to get Resident Evil 7. People were going bananas about that. That looks pretty cool. Oh man, a lot of stuff I want. It's a good time to be excited about games. What else? The Atari collection, I have that already, but it's $3, or is it $3.99? Maybe it's $4. I want more people on my friends list to have that, because I want to be able to high score battle with people. I don't know anybody who would play that though. Maybe Hemrock. Maybe I got to get Hemrock a copy of the Atari collection. It's not a great game because the Atari 2600 games don't keep your high score, but the arcade ports do. So there's a little bit of high score leaderboard fun capabilities there. Those are just to name a few games off the top of my head that I want to get. At the same time, there's also this Humble Bundle. Humble Bundle finally has a really, really awesome deal. It's the first awesome deal they've had in a long time. It's a Sonic the Hedgehog bundle. They've got Sonic All-Stars Racing in the $1 tier, and they've got Sonic 4, and they've got Sonic CD, and they've got all these awesome Sonic games. I'm going to buy a copy of that because I want to get... I'm probably going to buy the high tier of that because I want to get Sonic Mania. Everybody was talking about how awesome Sonic Mania was. But I also am probably going to buy like 4 copies of the $1 tier. Reason being is that I maintain accounts for both my kids, and I want to have one in my pocket for my wife, so that we can all play Sonic All-Stars Racing together. I think that would be awesome. That's like a goal of mine, is to be able to play Sonic All-Stars Racing with my family. Those are good racing games, man. I know we're just talking about Mario Kart clones, but they did a really good job with it. Anything else? Any other awesome Steam games? I got to look around it on my phone today, and I was just like, oh yes, this game, oh my gosh. My eyes were really wide. Oh, another game I'd want to get. This isn't on Steam, but rather EA Origins, which I make fun of quite a bit. But Sims 4 Deluxe is like $6.25. So I might get Sims 4. I put it off for a really long time. I loved The Sims 3. I loved it. But I spent a lot of money on it. And I was really disappointed that they didn't release The Sims 4 on Steam. It came out after they broke away from Valve. But I still want to play it. I still think The Sims is an amazing series. So we'll see. I got some good stuff on Origin. Origin isn't all bad. I got the Command and Conquer franchise, the entire Command and Conquer franchise on Origins, as well as a few freebies that I got over the years from the On the House program before they finally discontinued that. Yes, lots of frivolous games that I probably won't get around to playing. Oh, here's another one. Speaking of frivolous games. The most expensive King of Fighters game right now, which I think retails for $50. I can't remember what the number is, but that went down to $15, only for a couple of days. But man, I was really psyched about that. I held off because it was just before the winter sale started, and I didn't want to buy another fighting game when nobody else I knew had it, except maybe NG. He might have it. But yeah, I kind of regret that. I think maybe I should have got that one. Alright. I think that about wraps it up. This is the end of the day. I usually do these at the beginning of the day, but I wanted to go over the Steam winter sale. I don't know, man. I bought a ton of stuff over the Thanksgiving sale. I think it might have been the most I've ever bought in a Thanksgiving sale. So part of me wants to take it light on this winter sale, especially since I have MagFest in 2 weeks. But I don't know. I want to get them party games, man, so I can play Steam games with NG and Hemrock. I think that'd be pretty dope. We'll see. So what would I play if I was back home? Well, I'm on my way back home now, but I know when I get there I'm going to have fatherly duties. It's not like I'll be able to just plop down and play video games. I played Dead by Daylight this morning at about 5 in the morning. I did this 2 days in a row. I played it from 5 o'clock to 6 o'clock, and then when 6 o'clock hits, I have to get ready for work. And it's a popular enough game that I was able to get games going, no sweat. It takes 5 people to play Dead by Daylight. You need a killer and you need 4 survivors. So 5 in the morning, I sat down, and here's the thing. There's quick time based skill checks in that game. So if you have to fix engines, and while you're fixing an engine, you got to hit the space bar at just the right time. Well, I was so tired playing Dead by Daylight at 5 in the morning, every time a skill check happened, I would fail it. And the end result of failing a skill check is you alert the killer to your presence. You're trying to fix an engine, and then it has a little quick time event, and if you fail the quick time event, then the engine blows up, it sets your progress back a little bit, and then the killer gets a beacon as to where you are. So failing these checks is really, really bad. Now, typically, I never miss. Most people who play Dead by Daylight all the time rarely miss. But because it was so early and I was so tired, I couldn't hit, and it was really frustrating. So if I could play games right now, I'd go back to Dead by Daylight, and I would play it now that I'm wide awake and charged up from running a couple miles at the gym and lifting weights. That's a good game, man. It's crossing into this territory where I know it's no fun to listen to me talk about, but I still have fun with it. I noticed that Friday the 13th dropped in regular price from $40 to $20. That's huge. I'm not talking about the sale price. I'm talking about the regular run-of-the-mill price. When the sale is all over, it'll be $20. That's what I paid for it. I paid for $20 while it was on sale, and I felt like I got a really good deal. I paid $20 for it, and then probably another $10 for various DLC, and I got about 50 hours into it. So $30 for 50 hours. Not bad. Well, let's see. Can I turn this thing off safely? Yeah, I suppose so. That's the Vancast for Thursday, guys. I'm going to send you back to the studio. I'll see you there. Yes! We are back in the studio. Oh my gosh. Oh, that tea's been sitting here all day. That's ice cold. Oh well. Alright, guys. So, it's time for the fail bag, everybody. It's just me. It's just you. Just a few of us. Last week, the episode that I put out did very well at 21 views. So, it's a small crowd. You know what? Most people, they say, hey, enough people follow me that I could fill a stadium. You know what? Enough people listen to this show that we could all sit comfortably in English class and have a good time. And you know what? Sometimes that's the way I picture us, just hanging out in like a small conference room, talking video games, playing some chip tunes, just enjoying Friday night or Monday morning or whatever it is you got to do. So if you want to reach out to me, the best way to do it is through the YouTube comments. But if you know me personally, by all means, write an email. That works too. So the first one we got is from Desm101, and he puts a timestamp at 33 minutes. He says, yeah, Top-Loaded Trevor is right. Some heavy Twitch reaction games like Punch-Out requires no-lag solutions to beat, but I'm not even good enough to beat Tyson. Ha! That PS1 Classic is already down to $75 on Target and Amazon. Woo! So I expect them to be going for $50 by early next year. The hacks will probably be pretty good by then also. Good point. You got some good point. The hacks could be tasty. Man, $50. I might do that for. I might take the plunge for $50. With all the problems, all the problems, you got to understand. With the two kids, there's a little piece of me that because $50 it then becomes disposable hardware, right? And I've got two kids. Hey kids, let's sit around. We're gonna play Jumping Flash. And if they play Jumping Flash in real life and actually stomp on the system, not the worst thing in the world. Not that I have $50 that can go in the garbage can, but it's less of a thing. It allows me to take the risk of exposing my children to my video games. Thing about collecting for me, I want to share as much as possible. I've had some breakage issues over the years with my kids, but I'm so glad that I live in such a way that my things are open to them and we can share them together. It's so much of a better way to be than, look, kids, you guys do not come in Dad's game room. Trust me, that's no good. Because then what is your game room, I don't know. That's a bit of a tangent. It's pretty far off from what your comment was, but you strike me as a person who's more in tune with the market. So I appreciate the insight. Mecha Menace put a reply to that comment and put, I just bought this thing called the RetroLink. It offers lag-free transcoding of analog symbols, composite, S-video, component VGA to HDMI. I'm not into Punch-Out, so I wouldn't know how it fares with that game, but it may be something you want to research. Now that sounds cool. The only other solution that I thought of was, here's the thing about the Raspberry Pi. Okay, the Raspberry Pi has this HDMI output that people say it's got some input lag. All right, I don't know if it does or if it doesn't. I had one for a while, but the only game I really played on it was Chrono Trigger, so I never would have known. Now on the box, just to the right of that HDMI output is a 3.5 millimeter jack. And people always say, oh, that's the audio jack, right? A lot of the cases that you can buy say headphones on them right next to that jack. Note that the cases, 90% of those cases are not the Raspberry Pi people. It's just other companies making cases, which, by the way, is awesome. That's cool. That 3.5 millimeter jack is actually an audio video jack. It's not just an audio jack. I was under the impression that if you used that 3.5 millimeter jack using a cable that had 3.5 millimeter on one side and then composite cables or component cables or whatever they are on the other side, you could get input lag-free gameplay. But it would come at the cost of using this lesser output than HDMI. So it would depend on what kind of games you wanted to play. I never put that to the test when I had a working Raspberry Pi, but that's something I've always kind of had in the back of my head. As far as input lag free goes, once I know it's there, I have a hard time letting go and having fun with it. One of the things I would like to do with a Raspberry Pi is shmups, particularly Sega CD games. Sega CD, and just Sega CD. I want to play the shmups. Okay, there's a specific game, and I can't think of what the title is, but I'm gonna look it up right now. Something Flying Squadron, Sega CD, Flying Squadron, Kyo Flying Squadron. That's it. An authentic one is like $1,000, or you could buy a reproduction, which is just a printed CD for like $50, but that's still just a CDR. I don't know. I went over to one of my buddies' houses who has a Raspberry Pi all set up, and he was like, "Yeah, man, play some Kyo Flying Squadron." I was like, my eyes just went super wide. That's what I would play. And with shmups, the lag. I mean, the control has to be perfect. I play shmups with a really high-end arcade stick, so if you're gonna go that far to get that level of comfort and control, you might as well go the extra mile, whatever that mile may be, to make sure you're playing a lag-free experience. What was the other thing you mentioned? The RetroLink. Yeah. I want to see how much the RetroLink costs. Buy RetroLink. Because this sounds familiar, what you're talking about. I didn't know it offered an input lag-free solution. I thought it was just like an all-in-one converter box. Okay, so it turns out that the term RetroLink is thrown onto a lot of products. RetroLink converter. Try that. All I'm getting is USB controllers. I'll have to do some more researching. Apparently this isn't something I can do with a quick Google search. I'd have to add some sub-search terms and narrow it down a little bit. Not too much trouble, but I'm going to do it off the air so it doesn't just drag on with me silently typing things into Google. Desm and Mecha Menace, thank you guys both for the comments. It's cool. It's especially cool to hear it back and forth. Light Studios leaves a couple of comments, and by the way, good old Light Studios, who is running Emerald Rangers, and I am doing a little work with him now, which is awesome. He branched out. Emerald Rangers is, here's the thing, he runs this website. It's a collective blog, a little bit like The Next Round or something like that, but it's all written, so it feels a lot more like a really old school magazine. And up until this point, it's been Japanese television shows. Let's see. Let me open up real quick. I know Super Sentai gets covered. Yeah, here we go. Kamen Rider, Super Sentai, Metal Hero. Those are some of the shows that they have listed. And now they also branched out into video game stuff. And I love the site because it feels like an old GamePro, right? This is what GamePro became. It became, except, not so much games. It's mostly Japanese television. But now that they've branched out into like some Steam games, I was lucky enough to become a part of that. So hopefully I'll be able to get my review up in a couple of weeks. And then as soon as that happens, I'll direct you guys over. I'll throw the link on my site, not any of the content because it's something. It will be something written just for them, but I'll make sure and let you guys know so you can go read it if you want. Right. So Sendu left a couple of comments, and let me navigate back to my. Yeah, here we go. He writes, "You left home at 17 and your mom threw out all your stuff. That sounds like a rebellion story." That's exactly what it was. My mom has paranoid schizophrenia, and my dad died when I was 14, so it was just me and her and one of my older brothers, and it got really tough. And when I was 17, what was it that actually happened that threw me over the edge? She threw out a bunch of my cassette tapes. A friend and I used to walk to Hollywood Video, and I'd spend $10 on a VHS movie, and we'd watch the movie at his house. At the time, it was one of my favorite things. We would do like a movie day. So I built up a collection of VHS movies. And these were purchased, I mean, these were in good shape. These weren't like old yard sale purchases. These were nice tapes of movies that were, you know, fairly recent at the time. And then one day she swept through and got rid of and threw out most of the movies. Not just all of the R-rated movies, but anything with any kind of action on it. She said, you don't need this. She threw them all out. And I got really upset inside. It's like, that was my stuff, you know? And then in the same week, she swept through my big box video game collection in the same way. She threw out every M-rated game, every game that had a gun drawn on it, and I lost unbelievably priceless material. And then she did it again, like, later in the same week, and then just threw out all remaining games. And I was just like, you know what? This isn't working. And I took like my school backpack and I just emptied it out and I threw clothes in it and I was like, all right, I'll see ya. And I hit the bricks, man. I didn't have a car. I didn't have anything. Yeah, that happened when I was 17 years old. Some of the stuff that I have from before that happening, I don't know. Like, I don't even remember how some of this stuff survived. Because, like, I had things from around the house. Like, I had a Sega Saturn at that point that had broken. But I still had all the accessories in, like, a paper bag in the basement somewhere. And my brother found that and gave that to me. So some of my Sega Saturn stuff survived for many years. And then I had my NES games. Thankfully, my brother was able to rescue my NES collection. And then I let a friend hold on to that because I didn't have any place to put it. And then that got whittled down. And what I got back was just like a small fraction. But the small fraction that I did get back is like NES games that were mine from, when I was like 15, 16 years old. And now I'm 34. Whew. So things that have been in my possession quite a long time. Yeah, it was very much a rebellion story. I was like, I'm out, bruh. I moved, after that happened, I moved like 11 times inside of like 2 years. It was nuts, man. It was nuts. I went to work for, I went to work for a plumber and started digging ditches and stuff. Yeah, it was pretty brutal. The games I was playing at that time, because I didn't own a television, and I had like those NES games, but I didn't have a TV or I didn't have an NES or any of that stuff. So I had a laptop, like an old Pentium 1 laptop with no sound card and no real connection to the internet to speak of. So I had like a couple of games that I loaded onto it with floppy disk, and that was my video games. And they were like, I had an NES emulator with Super Mario Brothers 3. I had Bump and Jump. I had a couple of really tiny Windows games. I had SimCity 2000 and Doom, and that was really it. And those were my video games like for a long time, for like a couple of years. Oh, man. And what kills me is like while that was happening, right? That's when Steam was invented. And the whole time that was happening, I was looking back to when I used to live at home, to when my brother got his computer, and how I used to play Counter-Strike when it was a free mod and stuff. And I would think back to those like stories of like awesome Counter-Strike matches. And I wanted to go back and play that game again so badly. Meanwhile, like history was being written into, into stone. Steam was being created, this was when you could get an account and it would say X amount of years old. And there was nothing I would have liked more than to have a computer that could run Counter-Strike and the ability to play that game. But it wasn't in the cards for me. But I've come a long way. And here I sit in Panzer Studios, something I built brick by brick, piece by piece, and mostly with your guys' help. So thank you very much. And you know what? I will drink day-old tea to that. And second comment, he writes, I miss the Minecraft boom. Any thoughts on Hytale? People are calling that the Minecraft sequel. You know what? I read this when you first posted it. And I was interested to see what Hytale was, because I had never heard of that before. So let's click on, let's take a look. Is that a Steam thing? Nope, not on Steam. So let's go to the Webernet, and we're going to take a look at what Hytale is. What is Hytale? What do you have on Whale Pictures? I'll tell you that story in a minute. Hytale. Embark on a journey of adventure and creativity. Hytale combines the scope of a sandbox with the depth of a role-playing game. Those words don't mean anything to me now. It's just like gobbledygook. Every game is like the adventure and creativity and depth of a sandbox on an RPG. Every game has that. Street Fighter V has the depth of a sandbox. Alright. I just want to see what the game looks like. I see the dragons. I see the monsters. I see the blocks. I see the houses. Okay, the houses look cool. Discover unique worlds. Built for competitive play. What is it? There was something about Minecraft that I liked that the people who copied it couldn't quite do. Because I played every one of those Minecraft clones, especially back like on the Xbox 360. Before Minecraft actually came out for the Xbox 360, there was a lot of indie games that were like copying it, and I played every single one of them, and none of them could get it just right. And I think it was the algorithm that Minecraft uses to construct caves. When you went underground in Minecraft, I was compelled to explore those caves because of the way they were laid out. No other game did it quite the same way. That's one thing. And another thing is their system of get this item, get that item, put craft them together to make this item was a little bit more fleshed out. So one problem I ran into playing games like not Fortress Craft, because that was creative only, but playing games like Castle Craft or whatever it is, there was not enough things to find and not enough reasons to go find them. So the bar would be set pretty high in terms of that stuff. But one thing Minecraft always got very, very, very bad was anything involving other parties. All the stuff with mobs and monsters and stuff like that. Minecraft just always did that terribly. To this day, if you load up Minecraft, the combat is no bueno. I mean, this looks okay. This I'm just looking at the press page. I haven't seen any footage of it. Let's see. What is Hytale? Bring that up, Jamie. Dun, 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 dun. It just looks like a heavily modified Minecraft. It looks like something somebody could build by playing Minecraft and installing mods. Combat looks competent though, which is neat. Big monsters. I don't know, man. I don't know. I would get this if you guys got it and my kids got it. And it didn't cost too much, because Minecraft is an expensive game. It's an expensive game that I bought like 4 times over, because in its early days, when we were all like riding that Minecraft boom wave, I remember buying it for several of my friends as well. And that was part of the reason we were able to get a big group together, was everybody had Minecraft. Everybody had it. And so these games like Hytale, I guess, that's a problem, you know. I can't even find, like, I'm poking around on this website and there's not a clear, this costs $13 or $20 or however many dollars it is. How many dollars do I have to throw at this thing to get the game? Beta sign up. so I don't think I can actually buy it yet. I don't know, man. I don't think Minecraft will ever be the way it was. I don't think any game that is going to be like Minecraft in that way. But I'll bookmark this. Let's see. I don't even know how to bookmark things right now. Control B. Hang on. This is the part where CF tries to figure out how to bookmark things in his browser. Oh well, yeah, I don't think it's going to work. It looks good, Sendu. If you're interested in getting it, then I'll get it and we'll play together. Hey, we could do a crossover. We could do a collab. Alright, let's go back and see what else we had. Mecha Menace. Mecha Menace writes, ouch, $500 for a modded Xbox. I got Xboxes from G-Sales for free to keep people from using them as doorstops. There's something we can learn about perspective there. I don't know what it is. Maybe it's as long as you don't mind waiting, you'll always find a more agreeable price. I mean, no disrespect to you, none taken. You were happy enough to pay the price. Maybe that's the lesson. I don't know. $500, man. That's a plane ticket. Right, it is. Thank you for addressing price trends of cards. I didn't know it had any bearing on games in the same era values. Hold on. I think I read that wrong. I didn't know it had any bearing on the games of the same era values. But I want to compare trends. And he has a time signature of 38 minutes and 45 seconds. I wouldn't say NES games have eased a little bit. Fascinating is the overall price trends of various game libraries, which can be viewed on price charting. I made a video about game values after I saw a consistent trend over a year and a half. While it may be more interesting to watch my video here, and he's got a link that you guys can check out in the comment section of last week's video, the gist is, prior to the PS1 era, a lot of the system prices are in decline or have not breached a certain price point. However, some libraries are climbing in price, such as the GameCube, so the wave is moving and systems of old are behind the crest. I think the most important to realize is the majority of these collectors are getting older. Time for indulging in hobbies may be waning as they reach milestones in life, such as building families and slowly falling apart due to age-related illnesses. Yeah, true that. I imagine interest may have sloughed off after reaching a climax and all their money was shot. For a while now, I thought it was important to encourage younger people to dive into old games. These people would never truly have the same perspective, but it would keep the love of those games alive and maybe inspire them to create. Some pop culture media dies, I guess. I mean, how many black and white silent films pop up today? Interests wane and change. Eventually no one will care about Little Samson. They'll be too busy with their Marilyn Monroe bot. I will look for my copy of Super Mario War. I believe I have version 1.8 or 1.7 stashed somewhere. What an awesome comment. There's some really awesome stuff here. Let's back up just a little bit and talk about where he says, where he talks about the state of collectors and how they're getting older and stuff like that. Mecha Menace. This is a rare moment where I'm going to be optimistic, my friend. We can have some faith in the younger generation. Young people, at some point, they get faced with this older technology, and there's a moment where they see the older technology and they make a choice. They weigh that technology not against what's out now, but as its own individual thing, and they decide, am I going to be interested in this? Or am I not going to be interested in this? And this whole milestone can take place in the manner of seconds, like an instant. You can have faith in the younger generation because some people are going to take to it and some people aren't. You know what I mean? A primary example is vintage audio. It's something I mess around on Reddit. I'm reading about it. I'm just looking at stuff. You know, I like records. I love cassette tapes. I have a passing interest in reel-to-reel, but not enough to actually buy anything. I just like looking at the machines and seeing people set up. There are some young people out there who are into cassette tapes just because they're attainable and they're cool, and there's certain little advantages to them, like a 90-minute cassette tape can hold a total of more music than a CD, any CD or any record. Not to mention it's the most durable of the physical media. Like these older formats, and this applies to games too. I can't remember who it was, but somebody made a video about Atari. It was a game store owner. He was like, I started carrying Atari games, and I thought it was going to be these old guys who would come in every now and then and buy them. But in reality, it's the very young people. And the reason is because Atari has such a low bar of entry. $50 and you got yourself a system, man. So the young kids who don't have a lot of money are like, hey, I'm going to get me a copy of Pitfall and whatnot. Watch them. Look up Atari collections on YouTube and sort it by what's new. There's young kids out there who have it. So, I don't know. I don't know. We'll see young guys attracted to retro games. I don't think that's going to be too much of an issue. I don't know. Like, I think that was too much of an issue for NES because I think NES games became cool and really young people just got them because they was like the cool thing to do. And I think that hurt prices a lot for everyone. So, I don't know, man. I don't know what I'm talking about. What else did you say in your comment? Yeah, the Xbox thing. Let's go back to the Xbox thing. So let's go back in time, all right? I had money in my pocket. And my friend and I, this is my friend from when I was in elementary school, we just got a place together. This was an exciting time for me. It was me and my friend. We were both 19 years old. We got this place. It was in a really bad part of town. It was a basement, and the person who subletted it to us was kind of crazy. And it was cool, man. I rode the bus for 2 hours to work every day. And I had gotten a big payout recently. Which we used to get the place. We had to get we do security deposit and first and last month's rent, and that cost money. So we got this game system, the Xbox. Now, at the time, the Xbox was the hot thing, and remember, I didn't own a computer. I just didn't own one. Never mind the internet. I didn't have a computer itself, so I wouldn't have known how to hack something. I'd never hacked it. Even though like the Xbox is now considered like a super easy system to hack, in those days I wouldn't have known how to do it. Because remember, this was after I was 19 years old at this point. Just a couple years prior, at 17 years old, I fled my home literally with whatever I could carry on my back. So I didn't have a lot of equipment. Most of the equipment I did have at this point was music related. I was in a band. I was playing guitar. Writing music and being creative was something that brought me a lot of comfort when things were getting really crazy. I never had any ambition to be big and popular or like famous, but writing music and playing in front of people was just something that felt good. And it was something that was more attainable because I kept my guitar. Somehow I managed to keep my guitar. So it was something I was able to pursue even after leaving home. Yeah, so this guy had one of these machines, and even though I wasn't able to get the emulation working on it, that machine became the party machine. Remember, this was 19 years old CF, and my childhood best friend, or one of my childhood best friends, that became Party Central. People, like tons and tons of people came to that place. And we would quite frequently max out the 4-player split screen with people sitting around. I remember sitting and watching a game. My friends were playing Halo. They were playing drinking Halo. Every time you got killed, you'd have to chug your beer. And I didn't drink, so I was just hanging out. I remember my one friend Elliot decided he didn't want to drink anymore. See, they were drinking Budweiser, and he didn't like Budweiser. He thought it was gross. So every time he would get killed, he would have to chug his Budweiser. He would cry. I swear this is true. He would cry. Oh, gosh. Oh, man. Those were good times. Another time, I was working at IHOP, and my buddy Matt Matt was a character because he was going bald in his 20s. Like, he had a borderline comb over and everything, but he was the broinest bro, and he was doing the gym, and getting ripped, like, before I had any ambition to do any of that stuff. I was really thin and cut in those days, not because I worked out, but because I didn't own a car and I couldn't afford food. So I was that's how I stayed attractive to the ladies. So Matt was like, I need a place to crash tonight after work. I was like, hey man, you can crash at my place. It's a long bus ride, but we got a couch. You can, it's just me and my roommate, and he's cool. No problem. So somewhere along the line, Matt gets ripped, like hammered drunk. And I can't remember how that happened. If he was drunk, like, when we got together, but I don't really remember. I seem to remember being after work, so it doesn't quite add up. Like I'm piecing the memories together. I don't know how this came about. But Matt was spending the night at my house, and he was really, really drunk, like having a hard time walking. Now, here's the thing. Matt was much better at Halo than me, like a lot better. He was also really, really good at Madden. He liked the sports ball a lot. That was something that was important to him. There was another story about him and a $100 game of Madden, but I'll tell that later on. So he sat down to play Halo. I was like, oh man, this guy can barely stand up. I'm gonna clean this guy's clock. Finally, I was finally ready to beat Matt, and he lied down on the floor with his controller, and he still just stomped me, just absolutely stomped me. Oh man, it was rough. I couldn't believe it. I got stomped by somebody who was completely inebriated. That's fun though. I remember he was like, hey man, I'm hungry. What do you want to get? I got some stuff in the kitchen. It doesn't sound good. You want to go to IHOP? Yeah, we could go to IHOP, but it's going to be like an hour on the bus to get to the local one. You want to go? No, dude. Like, he wanted to get on the bus and ride an hour away to get pancakes when we had to get up and go to work at like 5 a.m. the next morning. That was fun. I'm dating myself a little bit. There was another video game related story where he played John Madden football against somebody else. I wasn't even playing in the game. It was against this other guy, Glenn, who ended up joining the Marines. They played Madden against each other, and they bet $100. They say, hey man, $100 to the winner. And Glenn was like, I'm gonna stomp you, dog. I'm gonna stomp you. And Matt was really chill about it. He was like, I don't know, I could play this team or that team. I've been playing a lot. I'm pretty confident if I use this strategy or that strategy. Or I remember him saying most of what happens in Madden in those days, it happens on the line, right? How you shift the line or what audible you call. It's not when you call the play. It's when the players hit the line. I remember him saying that. So I was like, I don't know. He's actually talking strategy, and you're just talking trash. I'll put $10 on old Matty boy that he's gonna come out on top. I wasn't there for the game, but I was able to call them from my cell phone. I had this old flip phone, and apparently they instituted a skunk rule, where if you were down by 30 points, then that was the game, and Matt skunked him. So I won $10 on the $100 game. That was good times. That's good times. Now, all this stuff, I mean, most of these stories stem from my $500 Xbox. So, Mecha Menace, the reason why I went on this tangent based on your comment, you're right. It's a plane ticket. And you're right. Xboxes are free now. But this is the one mistake, this is the one financial boo-boo that I don't regret for a second. I really don't. Because I couldn't see... I don't think up until that point I was interested in the Xbox. I got it because I thought it was going to be an emulation machine, and it turned out to be, the Xbox pirating rig, So having the Xbox around to play on was kind of more by accident, I'd say, than anything else. So I hope that's a satisfactory answer for you. And well, boys and girls, you know what that sound means. All right, we're going to interrupt the ending so that I can read an email that came in. I finished the program Friday night, and I think Saturday morning this came in. So I'm actually going to revise the ending because I want to make sure and reply to this. So bear with me, guys. Open up my Gmail box right now. This is from Hemrock. And how could I miss Hemrock's email? There's no way I would miss Hemrock's email. Not on the Christmas episode of Tiger Claw Radio. That is some... I'm drinking ice cold raspberry seltzer because it replaces my Coca-Cola habit. Keeps me from going back to the way I used to be. All right. So Hemrock writes the following. Merry Christmas, CF. Thanks again for another episode. I'm really digging the Summer Chip 8 tunes. Some of my favorites include Tropical Default, Sailing the Heliosphere, Spine Shark, and Cloud 10. I also picked up a couple more albums from Battle of the Bits, as well as Aloe Island Posse, and even one from the Desco Radio Club. I'm putting together a soundtrack for MagFest, something to listen to on the plane ride there, and maybe even listen when I'm in line or getting into or really getting into an arcade game. All right, I'm gonna stop the email right there. I did that one time, and I really thought it was a good idea. I brought an MP3 player that was loaded down with stuff, and I was walking the arcade listening to Black Flag in my ear. It's a good idea, especially. It's especially advisable to be prepared for lines. Not that I think that there's. It depends on what you're up to. If you're playing arcade games, especially in off-peak hours, then you should be okay. If you plan to visit any, and I mean anything on the schedule, like any of the guests or anything like that, the only person I know who's there is there's the music composer from the Mega Man series and Anthony Birch, and those are the only two names I recognize. Yeah, they say that's a good idea, as well as like a portable gaming system. So I don't know, to help cope with lines. I'm curious which album you got from Aloe Island Posse, because he made 3, I believe, and 2 of the 3 I know very, very well, and the third one ended up in my collection from purchasing like a big lot of albums, and yeah, Aloe Island Posse is awesome. Desco Radio Club is awesome as well, but I'm only familiar with Allure number 2. Excuse me. All right. Yeah, so let's get back to the email. He writes, one of the commenters mentioned that beer is not a Christmas gift. Challenge accepted. You talked about the Raspberry Pi. What version did you have? Did it perform well? Do you think we will see the Raspberry Pi 4 in 2019? All right, so let's talk about the Raspberry Pi just a little bit. I bought a Raspberry Pi number 2, and yes, it performed very well. I wanted it to play NES games, Super Nintendo games, Sega Genesis games, all of the what do you call it? The things that everybody can emulate, right? So it did exactly what I needed it to do. Now, at that time, Raspberry Pi could not handle, it couldn't effectively handle PlayStation 1 or Nintendo 64. If they keep upping the ante, I think some PS1 stuff works now. N64 is always really spotty. But the power consumption was very, very low. You could leave it on all the time, and so that you had when you turned on your television, you had on-demand games. I really miss it. It was good stuff, man. You could do some neat things with that machine. And I always got the feeling that you could do way more with it than I actually did with it. I just used my Raspberry Pi as like a little gaming device. But the reality was, if you were to use the Raspbian Linux distribution, you could do all sorts of stuff with it, like using the input-output pins. Like I could have got LED lights, and I could have, or even on a more basic level, I could have got some learning materials and dug into Python. It would have been a great device for learning Python. That's what they say. But yeah, I really miss having a Raspberry Pi. It was a lot of fun. It really was. All right, let's get back to the email. I did finish the main storyline of Duel Masters. I enjoy that game more now than I did when I first played it. A few unsolicited tips. Number 1, early in the game, the AI does not know how to respond well to blockers. So if you put a decent-sized blocker, you can prevent the AI from attacking, while which can come in handy. Number 2, if you're looking for a particular uncommon or rare card, try trading with some of the NPCs. Sometimes it's easier to get specific cards this way than attempting to buy boosters. Although I suppose you could save scum when buying boosters. You know what? Quick break from the email. I don't know if I would have the patience to save scum while buying boosters because of all the unskippable introductions. All the unskippable splash screens and whatever that game has. It is a chore to boot that game up. However good or bad the game is, that is set aside. Just the act of booting it up and sitting through all the title screens, it takes some time. Number 3, try designing decks with 2 colors. What's nice about Duel Masters is that you only need 1 mana of the corresponding color to play a card of that type. For instance, if you have a high-powered blue creature that costs 6 mana, only 1 of those mana needs to be of the blue color. The rest can be whatever. With that in mind, mixing and matching colors isn't nearly as difficult as it is in Magic the Gathering. Some color recommendations include green and blue, or try out a green and black deck. Also, all that said, point 3, a mono red rush deck in the beginning is cheap and effective. Buy the red starter deck and try and focus on putting out cheap cards quickly. I'm talking about 1 or 2 mana creatures. Throw in a few blocker cards, especially the ones of the blue variety, and as you progress, you can probably ride that deck till you're halfway through the game. He moves on from the Duel Masters and talks about our Minecraft world. He says, that would be cool to see the old Mushroom Kingdom of Minecraft. I'm glad that you have a copy. I'm not sure I have any record of it. I hope you're able to find an Ouya controller. Can you not just plug in a generic USB controller? It appears Nintendo is getting a taste of their own medicine. Word on the street is that Germany is suing Nintendo because Nintendo does not allow for cancellation of pre-orders that are made on their eShop service. Apparently this violates some European law. It's not looking good for the PlayStation Classic. Amazon has it discounted by $30 and it hasn't even been on the market for a month. Eesh. Do you know of anyone personally who has one? I don't. Take care, my friend, and keep rolling retro. Hemrock. Hemrock, my man. I surgically reopened TCR so that we could get this email in. It's the first time I've ever done this in 10 years. Let's go back to Minecraft. Oh yeah, I do have that. I have that world for sure. It's one of the bestest times in Minecraft, and it's great because the way worlds are generated in Minecraft has changed so much since those days. If you walk out to the edge of where we played, you can see there's like a clear line of delimitation. I'm so tired. There's a line denoting the old generation algorithm from the new generation algorithm. Thus, you can see like a clear split in the world. It's very neat, actually. This was before there was any such thing as tall grass in Minecraft, which was neat. It's cool. We built some awesome stuff. I remember the underground or the underwater base that you built, that we like modulated into the caverns, was something that was never I was never quite able to duplicate it. That, and then like the big rolling hills where we first spawned, and then like we drilled into one of the mountains and then went upwards and made a base on top. Ah, so cool. And then you built a base. You built a tower, a big cobblestone tower that went to the limit of as high as you could build a tower. That's how high you made this tower. But since then, they like doubled the length from the bedrock to the upper limit. They doubled that. So if I reopened that world and started building that tower again, it could now be twice as tall. That's good times. It really was. I know it's going to do very poorly, but I got to make a video about that one of these days. Speaking of videos, you also asked about the Ouya, and the question was, can I not just plug in a generic USB controller for the Ouya? Yes, you can, but there's a problem with that. And this is one of the great problems with the Ouya, is you were supposed to be able to. The controller compatibility was one of the things that really, really killed it, in my opinion, because the controller that it came with was really bad. And that would be fine if you could just plug in anything and have it work, but it only worked for some games, for starters. There were certain things that you needed to have the Ouya controller for, because the button in the middle and the center, the Ouya button, right? The Ouya equivalent of like the Microsoft button, that you had no way to put that particular input on a generic controller, which is fine. There are other ways to handle that. But there was another issue. Any game that was created with Game Maker, and there were a few really good ones. In particular, Medalta Castilla was created with Game Maker, and then there was another game from the same company. I can't remember what it was called, but you played as like a Godzilla type monster, or like a Mothra flying Godzilla type monster, and you were trying to crush all the buildings. Those games ceased to work once you connected a generic controller. Anytime you connected a generic controller, all those games would stop functioning. And they never functioned again until I reformatted the hard drive. And since the main servers for Ouya are going down, if they're not down already, I can't afford to have that happen. Long story short, plugging in a generic controller is going to break certain irreplaceable games on the machine. So I can't do it. And I've gone around my house hunting this missing Ouya controller quite a bit over the last couple of weeks. So I don't know what I'm going to do. As far as the PlayStation Classic, part of me wonders if that's going to be really rare one day. I don't know, because nobody has one. I mean, this is the same thing that happened to the Virtual Boy. They were $20. You could get a Virtual Boy brand new for $20. Nobody I knew wanted one, except this one guy who was broke all the time. Yeah, you never know. Maybe, yeah, who knows? Maybe not. You're right, it's not looking good for the PlayStation Classic, is it? And it's sad, because I really wanted that thing to work. I really did. And with that, boys and girls, I'm going to return you to the regularly scheduled ending. Whatever's brought you here 1 hour and 10 minutes into the podcast, thanks so much for hanging out. And this one in particular, I really had a good time reminiscing over some of those old times. Being 19 was fun. It was my that era of my life was incredibly dangerous, and part of me is really glad it's behind me. But at the same time, we had fun. So as you guys go through Christmas, I hope you guys get to see your families and enjoy yourselves. This is the time of year where we be a little bit less of a-holes to each other, and I think that's important. So whatever you're heading into when this week is over and you go back to work or you go back to school, I want you to know that I'm rooting for you and I'm wishing you the best. I'll see you guys next week.